People rarely share this information when you start using the bowl gouge. Hi, I'm Kent and welcome to Turn a Wood Bowl. Today I'm going to share with you 5 things that people rarely share with you when you first get started using the bowl gouge. Now, why don't they share these things? Well, I think it has to do with the fact that experienced turners just take it for granted that everybody knows how this tool works. And the bowl gouge, it's not very easy to understand how to use this tool when you first pick it up if you haven't been informed properly. So that's what this video is all about. I'm going to share with you 5 things that are rarely shared about the bowl gouge that you really need to know when you first start using it. So let's dive right in. Number 1, this is not an ice cream scoop. No, we're not scooping out material using the front edge and the round tip of this, although it looks like that's how it should be used. Now, there are other wood chisels that's pretty much how we use it. We just drive that front end in and just scoop material away. That is not how we use the bowl gouge. Instead, what we do is we're going to move the handle and the angle of the bevel and present this in different ways as we're turning so that we're only engaging a very small part of that cutting edge and we're making really nice slicing cuts. If we run the whole front end into the bowl, we're going to overwhelm the gouge. The gouge can't possibly remove that much material that quickly, so you're going to get a catch and you're going to have issues. So we don't want to drive the bowl gouge into the piece thinking the whole front end is going to just scoop material away. It doesn't work that way. Now, I've got a video that you might want to check out that's all about how to use the gouge for the first time, and I go into this a little bit more in detail. So check that out after this video. The second thing that you rarely hear anyone talk about is this is not a scrubber. We can't go into a bowl and just move it back and forth willy-nilly and scrub away the material, because if you do that, you're going to get a catch. Now, you can do that with a scraping tool like a carbide scraper. You can move it around back and forth and you can move it in pretty much any direction. Now you might be thinking, well, why in the world don't I just use carbide scrapers? Well, you can use carbide scrapers. There's nothing wrong with carbide scrapers, but the bowl gouge is going to give you a nice clean slicing cut where the scraper is actually tearing out more material, and it's going to cause you to have a rougher surface. It's going to need a lot more sanding, and you may never get it as smooth as you can get it as coming right off the bowl gouge. When you make good, clean, slicing cuts, you're going to get a very nice finished surface that needs very little sanding. Now, the method though is you start a cut and you move in the direction that you're cutting, and that's it. You disengage the tool. If you need to remove more material, you come back and you make another cut. You never move it backwards and scrub it back and forth, because what happens is that bevel edge is a guide for this cutting tool, and it's a guide for where your cutting edge is located. If you move it backwards and you come off that bevel, all of a sudden you're going to have a big chunk of this curve is going to become engaged, and it's not supported by the bevel, and you're going to get a nasty catch, and it's going to grab and it's going to cause problems. So we do not move this back and forth. We make intentional one direction passes. We disengage the tool and make another pass if we need to, and we do that in consecutive patterns until we get down to the surface that we want. And the last passes we make them really thin so that there's a very clean cut. You also want to go back to your sharpening station and sharpen your tool right before those last few passes so that they make a really nice slice through there, and you're going to leave the surface of the wood really, really smooth that way. And sometimes you barely need any sanding. I wouldn't say you never need sanding, because that's rare, but you don't need a ton of sanding to make a really smooth finished bowl when you make nice slicing cuts. But remember, you're going in one direction at a time. You're not scrubbing. Something else that is rarely talked about when you first get a bowl gouge is the bevel angle or the profile. Many times you buy a gouge and it has just some random angle on it. It might be 40 degrees or 30 degrees or whatever, and it really doesn't cut very well. Well, that angle really hasn't been set up. And what people don't tell you is that you can produce whatever angle and profile you want on your bowl gouges. And you don't need a ton of bowl gouges. So this is kind of a 2-for. Number one, you can put whatever profile you want on here. The thing that you need to know about the bevel angle, and this gets confusing too because there's so many different turners that you see using different bevel angles. The bevel angle is essentially going to change the ergonomics of how you present the tool. If you have a steeper angle, you're going to have the handle out more. If you have a lower angle, you're going to have it in towards the lathe more. The shear and the slicing mechanism or process of the cutting edge with that angle changes a little bit. There's some people that swear by the 40-40 about how it's cutting and how it slices the material, and that's fine. You can try that out. I like the 55-degree bevel swept back bowl gouge, as you know. And here's this thing that nobody tells you. Just buy a bowl gouge. Now, when you buy a bowl gouge, I recommend a parabolic flute bowl gouge. That's what most of bowl gouges are anyway. There are U-shaped bowl gouges and V-shaped fluted bowl gouges. I avoid those. Most gouges are parabolic. I get the parabolic gouge, and then I put the 55-degree bevel angle on it myself and make the swept back wings. Now, if I wanted this to be a 40-40, I could do that. If I want to make it a micro bevel with a 65 or 70 degree angle in the front, I can do that too. You get to decide what you want on here. So what I recommend if you're just starting out is get a good bowl gouge and try the different angles. It's not that hard to do. Now, I've got a tool sharpening course that really should be called a tool sharpening and shaping course. And in that course, I will show you how to shape any bowl gouge into a variety of different profiles to meet your need. So what I recommend is that you get a bowl gouge, a single bowl gouge, probably like a 5/8 inch bowl gouge that I have here, and try the different profiles. Start with one profile and turn a bowl or two, and then change it to a different profile and see what you like. Experiment. The fourth thing that many people don't talk about are these side wings. Now, traditionally profiled bowl gouges, maybe a 40-degree fingernail gouge, for instance, have a really short wing on them. And people see this long wing and they think maybe I've sharpened my bowl gouge incorrectly. And that's not really the case. What these are is this is added versatility. What I can do with this is amazing. Now, I am not engaging this entire side when I'm cutting ever with the flute in an upward position because, again, just like running the nose into the turning, if I engage that full side, it's going to catch. It can't possibly cut that much material at one time. But instead, what I do is I actually turn the gouge over, and this allows me to do this scraping cut and the shear scrape. The shear scrape is something that if you're not using currently, it is something I highly recommend because it is a beautiful way to get a finished, smooth surface without removing a ton of material. When I first started out, what would happen is, and you might be able to relate to this, what had happened is I'd do a pass and there would be a few rough spots on it. So I would do another pass, and this would be a push cut. So I'm pushing into the piece and I'm cutting, and I would do it again and be like, well, it's a little rough over there. So I would do another pass, and before you know it, I would have this bowl that was about this big around, and it kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, guess what? That's a good way to make doorknobs. So we don't really want doorknobs. We want something that's a bowl that we're looking for. So instead of trying to obsess over making a perfect pass across the entire side or the inside of the bowl, what you can do is you can get the surface where you want it and then come back with the shear scrape and just take off any rough spots or blend two cuts together very easily, and it just shaves away a little bit of material. And as you might have guessed, I've got a video all about the shear scrape, so you're going to want to check that out. Just remember, adding the longer wings to your bowl gouge is going to give you a lot of versatility. The fifth thing that people rarely tell you about the bowl gouge is that it's a one-stop shop. What do I mean by that? Well, you could do everything you need to turn a bowl with this one gouge. That's all you need. Now, there are times when I like to clean up the bottom inside corner of a tenon, and I will use a spindle detail gouge, and that helps me get down into that corner. Usually the nose of the bowl gouge is a little bit too wide, and the angle of the bevel is a little bit too open to get down into that little corner. So that's where the spindle detail gouge helps out. So, but I only use this for just a couple little moments when I'm turning a bowl. I could get away without it if I really had to. But the bowl gouge is all you need. So if you're just getting started out, I highly recommend getting a nice bowl gouge. And when I mean nice bowl gouge, what I'm talking about is something with a nice long handle. This is about a 14-inch handle, and it's a longer bowl gouge. Just get the bowl gouge, sharpen it at different angles, and remember to check out my tool sharpening course, because in there I will help you shape your tools as well. And you can shape this to any profile that you can imagine, and just experiment with the one tool. The road that a lot of people go down when they get started is they think they have to buy a whole bunch of tools. And many times they'll buy a kit of tools, like a whole package of maybe a dozen different wood turning tools. Now, if you're gonna do all kinds of wood turning and you're gonna do some spindle turning and that, some of those kits aren't too bad, but very few of those kits have a nice long-handled bowl gouge in them, so they're not really great for bowl turning. If you're interested to starting out to turn bowls, just get one bowl gouge. You can always add another bowl gouge or another tool later. Save yourself the headache and the expense and the frustration of seeing tools laying around collecting dust that you rarely use. That's not fun. Get the one bowl gouge, work with it, and then decide what you need to add to your collection. You can add the spindle detail gouge if you want, that has this steep angle for getting into tight corners for things like the tenon and for removing the tenon at the end of your turning. But you could probably get away without this as well when you first start out. You only need a bowl gouge if you want to turn bowls. So don't let people think you need to buy a whole bunch of tools when you start turning. Get the bowl gouge, and I think you'll be happy. And here's a bonus tip. Something that people rarely tell you is that you're going to need to acquire a variety of different skills, and you're gonna have to hone your muscle memory to make this bowl gouge work properly. You're not gonna pick this up on day one and be mastering the cut, most likely. Now, if you're very proficient and you're very skilled, you might be able to do that. But in reality, what happens is we need to practice, and we need to turn bowls, lots of bowls, using the gouge and practicing introducing the tool at different angles to make a bevel riding cut and to use it properly so that you're getting the most from this tool. It is not intuitive, like I said at the beginning. This is a tool that once you understand how it actually works, you need to practice and build your skills, and you will become better and better at it. Now again, you might be thinking, why not just use that carbide scraper? I can just stick it in there and just move it around, and there you go, I got a bowl. I can completely understand where it seems like the carbide scraper would be the easiest way to go, but I challenge you to use the bowl gouge and get good at it, and compare the surface of the bowls that have the finished slicing cuts of a bowl gouge versus the scraping cuts of a carbide scraper. And I think you'll see a huge difference. And you'll see a huge difference in the quality of your finished bowls if you're using the bowl gouge. Now, I know how frustrating it can be to get to know how to use the bowl gouge properly. And actually, I put together a bowl gouge mastery course for you. In this course, we go through this step by step, and we build on all of the skill sets. First, we start off with understanding all of the different components of the bowl gouge, how we're going to introduce that to our turning, and then we go through and do a variety of different exercises over and over until you become very proficient at using the bowl gouge. Now, the bowl gouge mastering course is not a full wood bowl turning course. That's a different course that I offer. But the bowl gouge mastery course allows you to master the bowl gouge. When you get done with this course, you're going to feel confident with this tool. You're not going to get catches anymore. And if you do, you'll know exactly why you got that catch, and it's not going to be a surprise, and you'll know how to overcome it. I'm going to help you troubleshoot if you're having issues, and it makes it so much easier to learn this tool just by going through this course. It's relatively fast-paced, and you can go through this in probably about a week and get very proficient at using the bowl gouge. So I highly recommend checking that out if you haven't already. So have you started using the bowl gouge, and have you run into any of these issues that we covered in this video? If you have, do me a favor and leave a comment below and tell me all all about it. I'd love to hear what your experience is with the bowl gouge, or if this video has encouraged you to try using the bowl gouge for the first time, let me know in the comments below. And while you're down there, go ahead and click that like button. Thank you. And also subscribe if you're not already subscribing. Be sure to check out my website, turnawoodbowl.com. Over there, I've got everything you need to know about turning wood bowls. Plus, I have the tool sharpening and shaping course and the bowl gouge mastery course. You're going to want to check those out. They're going to accelerate your skills and your abilities very quickly. And I think you're going to enjoy them as much as the hundreds of people that have already been through these courses. So check them out. All right, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, happy turning.